Let's welcome back to the show Iowa Congresswoman Dr. Mariannette Miller-Meeks. Doctor, it's great to have you on. Okay, there's this bombshell admission from this top WHO official. He led the probe into the pandemic in China. Dr. Peter Mbarek now says COVID patient 0 is probably an infected Wuhan lab worker. What do you say to that? He's saying China is also pressuring him to stop digging. What do you say to all of this?
Well, it's not a surprise. We know that China has not been transparent or forthcoming about what happened. They have been very vociferous in denying that there was any laboratory leak, but they've been covering up since this time. We know from the hearing that we had in Congress that for this to be of natural origin, zoonotic origin, was very low likelihood. And even Dr. Tedros, the director of the WHO, said that definitely a leak from the laboratory was on the table. And I think as more evidence comes out, we're going to find that that's the most plausible scenario. So whether it was an infected lab worker who got infected from a sample directly from a bat, or whether it was the gain of function research they were doing at the laboratory, we know that it leaked from a laboratory. And what's even more stunning is that we're getting near the end of the 90 days that President Biden had the FBI look into the lab leak theory, and they're probably going to come up and say that they don't have enough evidence, and it's because we're not doing the right research and we're not doing the right investigation.
Yeah. Well, this is going to undercut Dr. Fauci and others who dismissed this early on, also those in the media. Dr. Fauci is now saying, yes, investigate it. Early on was downplaying it. Dr. Mbarek and also WHO officials also warned about a second Chinese lab in Wuhan run by China's version of its CDC. Listen to this. Dr. Mbarek said that when he was in Wuhan, China, he asked about that second lab. He said, when did it start? The Chinese said we started it in December 2019. Doctor, that means they were moving between these two laboratories viruses. It's December 2019 is when the official outbreak started. That's what China says it started. What do you say to this?
Well, the official outbreak, they said, started December, but we already have information that it started earlier than that. We know that there were 3 laboratory workers who became ill and were hospitalized. That was in November. We know that there was military sports games that happened in October, and that there were athletes from around the world. They said that Wuhan was in a lockdown. They didn't have media. They didn't have fans. They didn't, it was like a ghost town in Wuhan, and that several of the athletes became ill and had COVID-like symptoms, as we would call them now. So we know that it looks like the virus started much earlier than that. We have that evidence, although it's circumstantial. It certainly leads us to believe that that the virus started much earlier than what the official proclamation is. And as we've said, China has continued to downplay any possibility that this leaked from a lab. Last year, I discussed with physicians that there were 2 laboratories in Wuhan, although the one that's closest to the wet market where they said this originated is the Wuhan Institute of Virology. But there actually are 2 laboratories, and we know that they have breaches in safety protocol as well.
That's right. Well, it's really disruptive to be moving virus samples from lab to lab. That's dangerous stuff. And scientists, the WHO official, Dr. Peter Mbarek, said they discovered there are at least 13 variants already circulating in Wuhan, China by December. And, the other interesting thing, too, is House Republicans on the House Foreign Affairs say it's really telling and revealing that China invested way more money and, put more into shutting down locking down what happened in Wuhan than investing in what started the pandemic at all. They'd invested 0 into that scenario, into what started it. That's pretty revealing. What do you say to that? Final word.
Well, precisely. They've covered this up from the beginning, and it's important that we know, and it's important for the international community. And I think that's why the WHO is coming out with this. The international community needs to make a decision on gain-of-function research and prohibit it. They also need to have, directives for transparency when there's disclosure if there is a leak or a virus that could become a pandemic.
Okay.
And then lab safety protocols. So these are important things the international community has to make a decision on and move on.
Okay, Congresswoman Dr. Mariannette Miller-Meeks, thanks so much for joining us. Come back soon.